Hello ladies and gentlemen, MarauderEX here with more PS2 game collection. This is part 4, I believe. Wow, part 4. Got a lot of stuff. Alright, starting off, we've got Psychonauts. This game is done by Double Fine, which means it's done by Tim Schafer. Tim Schafer is the man who brought us things like Grim Fandango. And this game is just as weird. You play a kid who goes to a summer camp for people with special powers, and his ability is to go into people's minds, and it's all weird. But it's an adorable game. It's got some really interesting things in it, and it's a psychic adventure from the mind of Tim Schafer. And anything from the mind of Tim Schafer is going to be really fun and really odd. Because he's one of those guys. He's like the guy who made Earthworm Jim. There's just something not quite right, but that not quite right makes great games. Next up, we've got Radiata Stories. Radiata. I can't pronounce this. Radiata. I'd like to verb, please. Actually, this is more I'd like to noun. It's a RPG by Square Enix. I got it for kind of cheap. I thought, hey, Square Enix could be fun. I haven't even tried it out yet. I've heard a lot of mixed things about it, but RPGs, it's what I do. Next up, Ratchet & Clank. Ratchet & Clank Going Commando. Ratchet & Clank Up Your Arsenal. This is the original Ratchet & Clank trilogy. This is really all that I care about for the Ratchet & Clank games, because they started getting really, really weird, and it seemed like more of them just kept coming and coming and coming, because there's 2 on the PS3, maybe 3 on the PS3 now, I don't remember, but then you started getting the spin-offs, like you got the Clank game by himself on the PSP, you got the arena fighting one where it was Ratchet and 2 drones, and that's all it's just shooting things, and it started kind of getting dark, but then it just started kind of getting weird too. So I stopped paying attention to the series after the original trilogy. But the first one will have a very special place in my heart for being able to create all these really unique weapons. And then I think the game started losing some of the silly and fun for dark and ominous and serious. So, but, you know, all in all, it's a really good franchise, so, you know, I may pick up the PS3 titles now that I have a PS3, but as it is, that was what I wanted, just to keep those, and not get into the weird ones. I even forget the one where it's Ratchet with the 2 robots. Next up, we've got Rogue Galaxy. I got this one because I thought it was going to be like Skies of Arcadia, just in space, because it's, you know, it's a flying pirate ship, and Rogue Galaxy, I figured, you know, it's not. It's nothing like it. It's not a terrible game, but it's kind of close. I haven't met someone yet who's played it that said they liked it, or at least loved it. They mostly tolerate it, is the term that I've gone with. But I haven't played enough of it, of my own, to form that much of an opinion on it. So, Romancing Saga. It's one of the Saga games, like Saga Frontier. This is actually a remake of a SNES title that never made it to the US. So, I've heard the original was better. I have the ROM for it on my Saturn PC, so I'm not entirely sure which one I'm going to play first. Because I've heard the original was better. This one just has better graphics, but they changed a lot of the other stuff in it, and just kind of, it loses some of the stuff in the translation. So apparently the translation patch for the ROM turned out a little bit better. Next up, another big box. I got it for the big box. Sakura Wars, So Long My Love. This actually came out on the Wii as well with a regular box edition. I grew up as a tech theater brat. All in high school I did tech theater. And this is about a theater troupe that fights. So I was like, okay. And I never really got into the Sakura Wars games. So this was the first one I ever picked up. And I haven't even really gotten into it, but all the characters' outfits on the back remind me vaguely of Power Rangers. So, I mean, there's some interesting stuff to it. I figured, why not give it a shot? And if I'm going to buy it, I might as well get the big one that comes with the bonus stuff. Next up, Samurai Legend Musashi. Yeah, Samurai Legend Musashi. And I just realized, no, I got it. Okay, I was about to say, I left a game out. No, I didn't. I didn't leave a game out. Samurai Legend Musashi. This is a sequel to Brave Fencer Musashi on the PS1. This is a terrible sequel, because Brave Fencer Musashi had some very good action RPG elements. This one kind of cuts out some of the action RPG elements just for action combo elements. And they take a lot of the humor from the original game and just kind of throw it out the window, because they wanted to make it a little more serious. This almost feels like a predecessor to Kingdom Hearts in a way, for how some of the combat functions. A very early predecessor, I will say. But both done by Square Enix. I wouldn't be surprised if some of the same dev team worked on both. I've never really looked into the specifics of this one, because when I fired it up and started playing it, and it was nothing like Brave Fencer, I was very disappointed. So, next up, another game that I go to if you ever want to debate that video games can be art. Shadow of the Colossus. Oh my god, is this game gorgeous? The scale of this just feels incredibly... you feel like an ant compared to the Colossi. And just crawling over them to try to damage them, and the flying Colossi, just seeing that for the first time, literally almost made me shit my pants. Like, it was just crazy. But this is one of the games that I will go to and say, if you want to have a debate that if cinema can be art, I've had this discussion before. Not all movies I would consider art, just like not all games I would consider art. Citizen Kane, that's art. American Pie, that's not art. No matter how you look at it, you've got art, then you have crap. Not that the American Pie is crap, but it's not art. And to say all cinema is art, that is a disservice. To say video games aren't art is a disservice. Games like this is art. Call of Duty, not art. But just like any other entertainment medium, you're going to have the entertainment that goes to the lowest common denominator, and then you're going to have things that cater to people who want to see the medium as something more. It's going to be like that with TV, it's going to be like that with movies, it's going to be like that with video games. Any form of... Books are probably a little closer to the higher end medium, but with stuff like Twilight, I have to say they will fall into the same category as well. So, for anything that there can be art from, there's going to be stuff that's not. This is my argument that video games can and should be art. Or at least some of them. Not all of them. But that's a strong contender. Next up we have Shadow Hearts. Shadow Hearts Covenant. Shadow Hearts from the New World. I got these after seeing Darkseid's wife play them. And just some of the things about the games just seemed so bloody crazy. There's a vampire wrestler who beats people with a locker. That's his weapon. It's a locker. He beats people with a weapon. And that's just... what? However, the combat system is amazing. The ring system is probably one of the most interesting new forms of combat I've seen for a turn-based RPG. It ranks right up there with the unique turn-based style of like Mario RPG with the timed hit system. It's based off of your perception of basically almost a clock. A hand will go around a wheel, and there's sections that you can hit the button to time things for multiple hits, for critical hits. Very entertaining, very unique combat system. And the story is, again, if you have a vampire wrestler who beats people with lockers, the story's got to be at least somewhat interesting. Next up. Some games that I kind of even don't want to mention, just because they've left such a bad... the company behind them has left such a bad taste in my mouth. Shining Force EXA, Shining Force Neo, and Shining Tears. The two Force games. This is when the fans of the Shining series lost any and all faith in Sega. Because typically before this, the Shining Force games were tactical RPGs anything else Shining could be whatever it wanted. Shining in the Darkness, Shining the Holy Ark were first-person dungeon crawlers. Shining Wisdom and Shining Soul were Diablo-esque style 3/4 overhead dungeon crawlers, or hack and slash. Dungeon hack and slash would probably be a better term than crawler. These are Diablo-style hack and slash games, but they have the Force moniker. Shining Force Neo is a kind of retelling of the original Shining Force 1 involving Max, but they go in such a weird direction with it that I can't even consider it a retelling. Shining Tears is more a Shining Wisdom, Shining Soul hack and slash style game, very more cutesy than realistic. Shining Force DXA and Neo are a little more realistic. But that was when a lot of people started losing faith in Sega for the Shining franchise, and EXA was the last Shining game released in the US, and because it did so poorly, none of the other games were ever ported over, and then Sega started getting mad at the fans for liking the old games better. And it was just a bunch of childish actions on their part. If you don't blame the fans for the sales not being well. You don't blame the fans for liking the older games rather than the new games because it's something you wanted to do. The director of the new Shining series, literally, he went on Twitter blaming the fans, saying that the fans are holding back the series because they're not letting it grow and evolve to what he wants it to be. I lost a lot of respect for Sega then, and then when they started taking down videos on YouTube and other video hosting sites for the older games in favor of the newer games, and that we're not even sure that that's the reason why they did it, but they started attacking the Camelot era Shining games, specifically Shining Force 3 and Shining the Holy Ark, branching then on to Shining Force 2, but because of that, I lost a lot of respect for Sega. I will say, I like Shining Tears. I don't like Shining Force Neo and EXA. I really think they should have been something else, especially if you wanted to keep the Force title, make them a tactical RPG. If you wanted to do something different, say Shining something, and it could be something completely different. That was the point of how you had the previous naming scheme. And then you just kind of went batshit crazy with it. So hopefully Sega will, come out and say, hey, sorry for being such douchebags, but I know they won't because it's been months since all of that transpired. And my heart still goes out to all the people who lost their channels. I mean, I lost my channel, but thankfully, due to a fluke, I was able to get it back. But, because of that, Sega's dead to me. Like, I won't buy anything else Sega-related. New. I will buy used stuff because I know they won't get any profit from it. But that was the death of a giant for me. And it was just depressing. Next up, we've got Slipheed, The Lost Planet. This is another shooting game, kind of like Raystorm, Ray Crisis, done by Working Designs. And again, very shiny cover. I can't actually hold this very well without you seeing the glare off this, but it's a very shiny cover. And it's part of the Working Designs Ultra series, which was just their way of putting out games. Not as good as the Ray titles on the PS1 from what I've heard. The graphics are a lot better, but the game itself, there wasn't as much there as what needed to be. Next up we have Sly Cooper, The Thieves Raccoonus, Sly 2, Band of Thieves, and Sly 3, Honor Among Thieves. This showed that you could do 3D action platforming with stealth and have it be a really fun title. I loved the Sly games. I was very excited when they announced they were going to do a fourth one. I was actually a little worried when they announced they were going to do a fourth one, because looking at the other trilogies of that era with the Jak and Daxter and the Ratchet and Clanks and how out there they got, I was kind of worried, but seeing the teaser trailer for it kind of put my mind a little better at ease. But really fun games. One of the few games where one of the main characters is in a wheelchair. Bentley the Turtle. They just had a really interesting design with him. It kind of shows off a lot of interesting things that you normally don't see in games. So I highly recommend the entire series. If not, just pick up the first one and give it a shot. If you don't like it, but you'll like it. It's fun. Last up on this part, Sonic Heroes. I was hoping that it would be kind of a fun game, but it's not. You play as various teams of 3 characters. So like Team Sonic is Sonic, Knuckles, and Tails. You've got Team Dark, which is Rouge, Shadow, and Gamma. Team Chaotix, which is Charmy, Bee, Espio the Chameleon, and the alligator whose name I'm forgetting. And they forget Army Armadillo. Army should have been in it, because it's Army. He was like the predecessor. He was going to be Sonic before Sonic. But the gameplay to it is just terrible. You switch. You have like say Team Sonic. You've got Sonic is good at speed, and Tails is he can fly and grab hold of everyone. Knuckles can punch things and beat the crap out of stuff. And you switch between each of the 3 as you're playing, and they all work as one cohesive unit. It was a good idea in theory, just terrible in practice. But that was another of the downhill Sonic titles. So yeah, that's this part. I've got one more part of PS2, so thank you for bearing with me through all of this. And I will see you in that last part. Till then, later everyone.